I know they're out there. We're close. We're really close. We're really close. And people come and go. Oh, now we're good. I have over 30. Yeah, so I gave this morning the confirmation class and the middle school, senior high class went together, and I gave them a crash course in Presbyterian governance, right? And because it's real, I mean, it's for all of us. Like, what are we doing and why are we doing this? So it's a good reminder how we're broken down, right? We have session and elders. Those people are elected by the congregation. But then the congregation, there's certain decisions that are just spelled out that the congregation makes together. Some of those happen on an annual basis, which we're going to tackle today. Some are special when they come up. So we have an annual meeting, and I always feel like it's good just to really create a snapshot of the church for you all as we do that. So I will go ahead and call us to order with prayer. Let us pray. So God, thank you again for the worship that we have of you and for you and of our education. And now we transition to a different kind of worship. Here we are meeting as a congregation, your church, doing your work, your worship. I pray that you bless our time together. Just may it be good and fruitful and pleasing to your eyes. This I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. So I'll get out my little agenda here. We do have a quorum. I confirm that. And so what I like to do is, oh, there it is, right up there. So that's where we're going to go today. Have a little looking back, a little looking ahead. I did promise an update on where the session is discerning our property, so we'll do that. Finances, and then it's those two items of business that we have: election of officers and nominating committee, and then you get to vote on the pastor's terms of call. Okay, well, let's get going. So when it comes to looking back, you know, I'm always, there's so much that, I mean, you can't just like identify everything that happened in a year in a meeting. We'd be here all day. Goodness. So things that came up to me that I saw as a pastor, and I'm sure you have others, but I made a little list here of just some of the things that I really saw kind of shift, change, take off, grow, or needs for this last year. So as I was looking back, I looked back at a lot of pictures and things like that. And Venturing in Faith, if you were part of that, we got out there, we did some bike rides, we did a tour of, what's it called up there? Yeah, here in Haven. That all kind of concluded with family time at Calvin Crest. It was just a lot of fun. So that was something that's great. Another thing, men's and women's ministry and youth group all are just starting to grow, both in number, but also just content and what we're doing. And that is just so awesome. Thanks to SJ and your work with women's ministry. Men's ministry has to deal with me on Saturday morning, but we got a good thing going. Youth group, man, youth group's just like taking off. It's just so great. Outreach and ministry. So a few new things that we did this year. Worship over at Legacy Heritage. It's just so great. Once a month, the deacons and I go over there, and we offer worship and communion. And for them, this is their one Protestant worship and communion opportunity they have. And so we provide that for them. They're so gracious of it. It's anywhere from 10 to 20 residents meet, have a good time. I got them singing hymns and reading scripture, and it's good stuff. Another one, one of the Hope Gardeners, Jay, reached out to me, hey, can we have a space to do yoga after gardening? And I said, sure. And while we play host to that, either here in the sanctuary or outside when it's nice, that has just really become something. That group has grown amongst itself. It's kind of turned into a little potluck that they have afterwards, that they sit and they gather together, and we're just grateful to host that. I didn't see that coming, you know. It's one of those. This was a year of needed upgrades. So this is kind of behind the scenes, but it matters. We upgraded the way our accounting software is done with a shift to QuickBooks Online. That was a learning curve for Linda in the office and for me. And then our church management platform is called Servant Keeper. How that affects you, and I'm going to get into a little bit with our website in a few slides here, but everything is just more streamlined than it used to be. We used to be kind of like when you gave in different ways, whether it's online or through your bank account, we had to gather these things, we had to put it all together. Now everything is just funneling, and we're really starting to see the efficiency of that. So, but that was a big learning curve to do that. And then finally, the building, right? Maintenance updates happen and continue to happen. From our parking lot, and we just need to name, I think, what we did with the parking lot was great, but it was just kind of a really big Band-Aid. But I'm reminded Band-Aids are actually really necessary, right, when you have an injury. You got to put a Band-Aid on it. But sometimes there may be more that needs to be done. We're just always looking and thinking about that parking lot. But we had a major moment with the parking lot this year. Concrete, ceilings were fixed, thermostats installed, as you can see, new smoke alarms, and a lot of debris cleanup around the yard. And that's not everything. There's more written in the report. So that's just kind of me looking back. We got a couple more slides that kind of go into that. This, I don't know what happened to the slide, but you've seen this out. I want to lift this up. You can't really read it. The Marian Medical Mission, one of those things, and this is given through designated gifts, right? Over $5,000 just from people giving this year. That goes to build more than 12 wells in sub-Saharan Africa. This is one of the coolest things that we do as part of, I think, because like that money goes right to the source. So nice job, those of you who gave. What a neat way to change lives that are across the world through a very good organization. So nice job. I just really wanted to lift that one up. The next slide I want to show you, if you haven't been there yet, is our website. So our website changed in 2025. And so on the left that's a screenshot of what you see on the home page of the website. And on the right is how to give on there. So I want to talk a little bit about that. So on our website, if you go to it, there's a lot of useful information out there. We have a calendar that's pretty well updated. So if you want to see what's coming on in the life of the church, you can go to calendar. You can also access all of our worship through YouTube right there on the page. So if there's a worship service that you wanted to go back and look at, you can do that. So we are trying to find the balance between finding something that's good for us as our membership, getting on the website, and then also knowing website's the front door, right, for outside visitors. Looking at the one on the right, and I know it's small, but if you go to fspresby.org/give, and it's right there on the site, this is that update of how we now give what we call online, or if you were an ACH giver, where like it came from your bank account either once a month or whenever, that's now all happening through there. So I just wanted to lift up how people give to the church. So our pledge units, we had less than like 41 pledging units. 14 of those are automated giving, which is really something. That's over a quarter of it, right? And so that's just the new way to give. There's nothing wrong with putting a check in the plate. That's one way to give. Giving online is another way. Now through this platform, if you haven't been there yet, what's great is so much of the power you have. So you get an online profile that you can see what you gave, when you gave. You can change amounts, you can change the date you'd like to, whatever bank account, all that. Print your own statement. All of that power is now in your hands. Now, an important note to make about online giving, it is kind of pushing the easy button, literally. There are fees attached with it. And that's just part of the deal. It's industry standard fees. You can either give credit card or through your ACH. 1% fee for ACH, 3% for credit card, and a 50-cent transaction fee. Now, you have the ability, if you want to click and say, yeah, I want to cover those fees, that's fine. Otherwise, the church covers them, okay? So, basically what I'm saying with that is we want to make giving as easy as it is for everybody to give to the church. You can put a check in the offering plate, or you can give online, and just know that. Any questions that you have about how online giving works, how you can access it, you can direct that to me and Linda in the office, and we will help you out and point you in the right direction. Talking about the website. So we have our website, but we are interested in your input for it. So I came up with a date, kind of hard to see there, but March 1st, after worship, if you're interested in giving input to what you like, what you'd like to see on the website, we can sit down together and we can go through that, okay? So mark that if you want to. March 1st, after worship, we'll have a little website meeting, we'll show it off, and you can have whatever input you'd like to. Go ahead to the next one. And now we look ahead, right? Again, there's so much more I could have said, but let's look ahead. First one's a prayer request. This week we're pushing send on a really big grant through the Nebraska Presbyterian Foundation that's really going to overhaul our whole, if we get it, AV and streaming, cameras, platform, all of it, okay? The grant we're applying for is about $18,000. In equipment and the needs that we have. So pray for us, okay? That God's will be done on that. Continued building maintenance and updates. There's always something. Next, kind of on the list, the parking lot lights. They're kind of like night lights right now out there. In the spirit of safety and, again, efficiency and modernizing, we're looking to upgrade those to LED lights like you see all over this city, right? So that is coming. Growing our partnerships, welcoming our neighbors in unique ways that we may not even see coming. And then just one highlight I want to throw out there before we get to finances is, yeah, this year, you're going to see when we turn to the budget, we have a $25,000 increase in pledge giving from you into the budget, which is just a great sign of growth and, you know, into the mission. So well done. Those are big highlights of things that are coming up. But wait, there's more. So this is a big focus right here. Youth group, yeah. And adults. Ozarks, here they come. We want you to be praying over our youth and those adults involved with them as we venture out onto a mission trip. So you have a couple opportunities to support them. We've been talking about that ice cream social. Also, that chili feed. Okay, that's money is going to youth programming to support this too. So we have 20-ish youth and adults signed up to go on this thing, right? 22. So 22 youth and adults. This is huge for us. Just a big moment. And that's happening at the end of May. Go on. What's the next one? Oh, it's back. You remember this? Well, we just blew it with that thermometer, like busted open last year. So we're going to do it again. Per capita is a great way to help just additionally. So the church gladly pays $4,162. Off it goes to help the greater church operate, okay? The largest portion of that goes to our presbytery to help it operate, and then it goes up the chain to our synod and the General Assembly. So this year, we're putting it out there again. If you want to help, right? So this is kind of an in addition to your regular pledge giving. If you want to designate giving per member, it's $40. It's really small there. $40.80 per member annually. Okay, is what we pay. So we had 102 members, $40.80. There's the math right there. Here's what's cool about that number. Our presbytery, looking at stewardship, so like everything, that number could just go up every single year because everything does, right? But our presbytery said, we're going to take on some of that cost so that that $40.80 stays the same for churches as it was last year. So that's not an increase in per person amount, thanks to our presbytery. Just said, we'll take on that additional cost. So good job, presbytery. So there you go. We'll see that. We'll try to reach our goal. Okay, something that some of you probably been looking forward to, hearing about where we're at in discerning over and praying over our property. This is something we've been working on. So to kind of talk about where we've been. So go back actually, not 2025, but 2024 was when we started this process as a session. And so we took on a process through the Presbyterian Foundation, which is a branch of the Peace USA that really works with like the legacy giving, the finance, things like that, the mutual funds. They're the really the finance arm. And they came up with a program some years ago to help churches, kind of how they put it is, with the kind of an unknown financial future, tackle it. And then they give churches, after they do a lot of personal discernment and doing a giving analysis that they compile for us, they give churches, 7 options, kind of roadway pathways forward that churches could take. And like a lot of things in life, it's not like, well, this is the obvious one right here, this is the obvious one. But you got to think about where churches are coming from who are facing some of these questions. I mean, some churches are very nearing to maybe like, we can literally not pay a pastor, pay the bills, like we might be closing. And that's one of the options for a church. Or maybe we're going to merge with another church. Again, there's these 7 options. Now, one of the options that they had you choose from was thinking about your property. Now, we happen to be blessed with a property here, right? It's not the church and a parking lot and nothing else. So we have some land here. So we really prayed and chewed on that. And then here this last year, 2025, we took a step as a session to do just more specific property discernment and a feasibility study. And so out of restricted money, we paid $2,330 to a firm, Turner and Townsend, and then together with architecture to say what could be possible if we wanted to do something with the excess land we have, right? Where that excess land is down south there. Now, like we can do north, we have a garden up here, so we're talking south. And so we've wrestled with and asked about, well, what would like something like a land lease look like or be like? And so we took the step in 2025, again, to have them say, okay, kind of show us some things. Tell us what it could be. And now we want to share what they have shared with us, with you. So I'm going to show an image here that the architect showed with us. Now, picture's worth 1,000 words, right? So let me explain the picture a little bit. And I know it's hard to see, but I'm going to give us the opportunity to see all this a lot closer here. See, so, the architect, what his job is to kind of dream up what's possible, right? So we probably got 6 pictures of where something could be, again, in our excess land, that's somewhere around the size 10,000 square feet. That's what that long rectangle is on the south of our property there. Now, that could be a lot of different things, But fortunately also, it can't be a lot of different things, right? Can't be a gas station, can't be a car wash, right? That list goes on. One thing it could be is something like a child care or a preschool or a Montessori school or something like that. Now there's some steps to go through to make that happen, and all that would be down the road if this would be approved. But something like that would make sense based on both the parking situation we have here, the mission that we have, what we would appreciate having out there, and what just really makes sense. And so what this picture shows, and again, this is one of like 6 different things that he showed us, is what it might look like if something were sitting on our south property. So what you have there, right, is a 10,000 square foot building, and off to the left there is like a playground that's connected with it. Now the little dotted line of the church says expansion on it. Now hold on. What we did was we did ask them to say, well, if there's a building out there, are we totally landlocked here, or what's possible? So he drew a little, okay, well, if the church wanted to do something, this would be the space. So what I see there in that expansion is possibility for the future, but also people really do like our green space, right? And so I think this church is something like 19,000 square feet or something like that. So almost the size of the church would be there in the meantime in green space. And what you see right there, where we have our Easter egg hunt and where we have worship on the green and things like that. So this was the image that he showed, and then again, the little gray shaded area to the south would be, if needed, an extension of the parking lot down that way. So Session has, received this, and we have then been wrestling with, okay, I think we can identify some blessings, we can definitely identify some challenges with this. But now is the time that we want to really involve the congregation in this moment of discernment, because nothing has been decided. So if you go to the next slide here, Steve, you are invited to a few moments coming up where we can sit down and really get into some of what we know, but also just really listen to what you have to say as a congregation about what you're excited about, what you might be concerned about, what we might have not thought up yet, all of those things together. So there's just a few moments there coming up. And I just looked at the calendar and I tried to do this soon and also tried to capture what might work for people's schedules. So February 15th, after worship, we can meet. February 21st, which is a Saturday morning, that'd be right after men's group, guys. If Saturday mornings works well for you. March 1st before worship. So we kind of have, and if we need to meet more times, we can do that. But again, this is a time to sit down together and talk through this. And what might be our next step as a session and together as a congregation. So that's the update that I have for you on that. Again, mark those. Those are on the calendar on the website. So you can keep those, and we'll just keep announcing those dates so that you can join in the conversation if you'd like to. All right. Well, we'll move on to our financial snapshot. And I want to invite Rich Green up here. And as I invite him, I want to invite him as the accounting director of our church. Rich, it was made official by Session that we have split the finance director position into 2, accounting director and finance director. Rich, I'm going to let you do the little advertisement at the end because I saw it on your slides there. But Rich is our accounting director, so he has really filled that role for many years now, and we're glad that he's still and willing to keep filling it, so thank you for that. Here to give us a little snapshot, I know for many years to come, right? A snapshot of what was 2025 and what's to come now from the finance side of it, so thank you, Nick. Come on up, Rich.
Good morning. There we go. Familiar role for me here as far as this part of the congregational meeting, talking to you as kind of a look back snapshot as to how we've moved through the year. And, you know, it's a mixed bag this year, but I think as Nick has pointed out already, we've got some things to be hopeful for 2026 in terms of both some very strong pledges coming in and making a substantial impact on our expected budget through the year. And so let's focus on 2025 right now. Our operating gifts were slightly lower than budgeted, about $235 less per month than expected. Again, that could almost be considered, you know, something that of an anomaly in terms of there's always additions and people that leave the congregation. But I think, you know, that ends up being about $2,900 a year less in operating gifts received and had it been expected. And that's apart from the specially designated gifts that are given through the year, and I'll touch on that here in a little bit. Operating expenses were lower than budgeted, so we kind of more than offset that by almost $800 a month. Now, some of those things we have some control over, where we manage things like, you know, utility costs, keeping thermostats, you know, set at ranges that save money from unnecessary heating or cooling. Repairs and maintenance sometimes depends on, you know, having something, you know, break that we didn't anticipate. But we also got some funds in. I think Nick received a grant for some air conditioning equipment to replace that, so that offset that cost. Things we can't control. I think many of us are experiencing increased property insurance costs through the year, and we were similarly affected by that. Overall, we ended up with an overall all-in shortfall, and this includes kind of what I would call below the line or non-operating expenses of about $24,000. And we had expected maybe a slightly lower budget deficit than that, but we came in again fairly close. The greatest news for the year is we're debt-free. I got a little happy face there. We paid off our mortgage during the year. It was a $55,000 mortgage at 0% interest from the First Presbyterian Church, about $465 a month that we got paid off in the fall. And so that's an expense that we no longer have going forward. We had our operating and restricted cash account balances decreased by about $27,000, and again, that ties in with our operating deficit that we incurred during the year. So that's kind of what you would expect. And we had those funds, you know, we used for operating expenses, our mortgage, our outreach, facilities repairs and improvements, and as Nick pointed out, we spent some money on review of feasibility for the south lot parcel through the year. And so, next slide. I alluded to this earlier, our cash donations that were not included in the operating gifts for specially designated funds, $31,000 versus about $28,875 last year, so an increase in that giving. But you can see a listing there of those special types of projects and purposes that we had money collected for. So again, a great credit to your generosity for these types of special purposes, including, you know, as Nick mentioned, the Africa Wells Project, the Pentecost and Peacemaking offerings, Morton School, Christmas Joy, One Great Hour Sharing, and those, you know, are outside of benefiting our congregation directly. So that's an outreach that we have a very strong history of participating in. Okay. Here's kind of a comparative going back to 2020. You recall 2020 was the COVID year. And you can see that our operating gifts have trended generally upward, and from 24 to 25, it went up about $7,000. And then our expenses net also increased by about $2,500. And then we had the debt service, which is lower for 2025 because we only had 10 months worth of those payments versus 12 months in the prior years. And then the other expenses, references were made to some capital improvements, repairs like the parking lot, and also then the costs for the feasibility review. And that also includes, we have a life insurance policy that we have a premium we pay, but it's offset by a dividend coming from that life insurance policy. It's on to former members of our congregation that they donated the policy for the church, and it doesn't cost us any cash. If you look on the balance sheet, there is a cash surrender value for that policy that in our building grounds and finance group, we always talk about that, kind of the funds of last resort. I believe it's a little over $100,000 that if we needed to, we could access those funds for the benefit of the congregation. So, okay. Here's kind of a budget summary here, and I've got a comparative then with the 2025 results. So for 2026, as Nick alluded to, we've got a nice jump there, over $25,000 in pledged and faithful giving funds expected, 217 versus 190 for 2025. The all-in net expenses are expected at 220 versus 215 for 2025 actual all-in operating expenses. And so our net budget deficit, kind of put all those numbers together, we're looking at about a $5,500 operating deficit for the year compared to an actual deficit of about $24,000. So that really strong show of support for the church and its mission, and that increase in those projected budgeted operating gifts is much appreciated. And then any shortfall that's expected would be covered by unrestricted cash funds that the church maintains. And you can see on the balance sheet report I've included that there are funds to cover that deficit. And here's a breakdown percentage-wise of where the budgeted expenditures are going. As you would expect in any organization with staff, a majority of that is going to Nick's salary, the office support salary, the retirement accounts for Nick, the contributions made, and I think there's an insurance allowance that's given, and then for the other staff provide all the work that keeps our congregation wheels smoothly running. Building grounds and finance in the next largest group you would expect. Again, that's for our facilities, our utilities, our insurance, those types of things. And in the budget, you'll see the breakouts of these categories and how these specific increments of dollars are tallied up into those totals. We have a $5,000 contingency, and then from there, worship, church, school, VBS, discipleship, fellowship, and outreach, $7,450. Our per capita admission, $9,900, and office and administration and communications, and that's office supplies. We have a copier lease, those types of things, $9,200. So that comes up with our budget there of $228 for the year. And again, those breakouts are fairly similar to last year, with the exception of no mortgage going forward. So again, as I've always been happy to report to you that we really appreciate all your generosity and the support of our mission. And as Nick alluded to, I'm now speaking to you as the accounting director. I talked to Nick probably 6 months ago, and I said, you know, I feel like it would be of benefit to the church to have some fresh ideas as a new finance director. Said I kind of feel like sometimes something pops in my head, say, oh yeah, we've done that before, we've tried that. You know, it just needs some new energy to come up with some new ideas and find that right person that would step into that role and would, you know, say, hey, you know, let's take a look at something that we may have looked at before, maybe time. Or let's look at something brand new and see if we can get people signed on to that in our congregation. So if you feel called for that, you know, please feel free to talk to Nick or members of the session and say, hey, I think I can bring some new energy to that role as finance director. I felt like my real strengths are this time working through the accounting. As Nick mentioned, we've had some new software for both QuickBooks Online and the Servant Keeper, which have really helped to streamline a lot of things. But there's still a lot of things that still need to be worked out. And I work with QuickBooks in my job during the week all the time, so I feel like I really have a talent to help expand that capability here within the church. And then the last one is, you know, something that this is the pitch that, you know, we're looking for someone. You don't need a lot of accounting background, and I think that may have scared a lot of people away if they thought about the position of finance director. They say, oh, I've got to do the accounting, or I've got to do this reporting, or I've got to reconcile bank accounts. So that's why that has been kind of removed from that. So, you know, a very limited basic accounting knowledge is helpful, but really, if you have a desire to help envision, you know, how we move forward in meeting the goals of this, you know, dynamic congregation, that's where we really would like that energy focused. And so if you're interested, again, Pastor Nick or a member of the session to talk with them about that in a little more detail. So I'm open to any questions on any of the things I've talked about here on the screen or in the report. Also, not to jump on Nick at all, but if there are any questions on the south parcel, because we have a good team, I think, looking at that, and I think it really gives some potentiality for use. I will mention that we've looked at doing a lease option only, because if we were to sell that property, even if the promises going in are, well, we won't put a gas station there, or we won't put a 3-story apartment building there, or we won't do something else that we might find objectionable as a congregation for that land. Things always change. And I think of the example over on Pacific Street, about between 168th and 180th, used to be a small church over there. Now they're putting up apartments, to my understanding. So I'm not saying that could happen or would happen here, but that's one of the reasons we're looking at a lease for that property, that we could also attach some conditions then potentially with a lessee as a daycare or a preschool or some similar type facility that say, hey, can we use your storm shelter, you know, if there's a need during the times that we're meeting here at a church. Or if they have some kind of gymnasium area, could we have access to a gymnasium? And I'm not saying anything of that type is going to happen, but I'm just saying that I had a boss I worked for a long time ago who said, he who has the deed has the deal. Meaning if you are the one that controls the land, you can control many of the terms and conditions related to the use of that land. So any questions? All right, thank you very much for your time.
Okay, and we'll just move on to a couple items of business that we have. So first, I would like to invite up Lauren, who's the chair of our nominating committee this year. Just let him go. Yeah.
It's free range over here. Good morning. As chair of the Congregational Nominating Committee, I present the following slate for election by the congregation. For elder, Marion Lord, Michelle Tibbles, and Lois Stage. For deacons, Emily Brantz, Cindy Hope, Kate Sheely, and Sandy Zeiden. And for our Congregational Nominating Committee, representing the elders, Marion Lord is the chair, and Matt Sheely. Representing the deacons, Sally Laquana. And representing the congregation, Glenda Barr and Beth Weiss.
So for nominations, we have an opportunity if there are any nominations for elections from the floor. So right, this is the slate. Are there any nominations from the floor? Which always gets interesting. It's never happened. So hearing none, I declare that open elections are now closed.
I move to elect the slate of nominees as presented.
And this motion comes from the committee, so it comes with the power of a second. So we're ready to vote. We're not going to talk about these people. That wouldn't be very nice or appropriate. Well, unless it's really good things, which it probably would be, but we want to get out of here, right? All those in favor of electing the slate of nominees say yes. Yes. Oppose? Motion carries. Thank you all for saying yes to that. Look forward to serving with you. And then last but not least, that's teeny tiny, I know, but we have another slide that clarifies a little bit. So I'd like to invite Michelle Tibbles up from our Personnel Committee to go over the pastor terms of call. One of those interesting things that happen to unique things in a Presbyterian church is you all get to say yes to the salary of a pastor, which is a good thing. So you get to agree on that together, that which is presented to you. So the slide before, and I am going to turn it over, kind of has all the fine print too of those benefits of like vacation and things like that. That one does. That's what all those small things are. The next slide are the numbers, and this is also in the back of your handout if you have one. Yeah, go for it. I was going to say, I got to follow the script too. Okay.
Okay, so on behalf of the Personnel Committee and the session, I move that the congregation approve the 2026 pastor's terms of call.
And so that motion also comes, and it does not need a second. So once the motion is made, then you move on to discussion of the motion. So as we like to do every year, I'm going to step out of the room just as a courtesy. And then that's your opportunity for discussion about the motion, which is, again, the terms of call. You can ask Michelle pretty much anything you want to ask her.
Is there any discussion on the pastoral terms of call? If none, are you ready to vote? Yes. All those in favor? Oh, sorry.
He needs to come back because he's the one that's got to be on the voter's table. I'm just calling back.
He needs to come back now?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're fighting now.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed of the motion say no.
Oh.
The motion passes.
Okay, well, that was good. That was easy. Thank you all. I appreciate the love and support. As I like to say at the end of session meetings, well, that's all I have today. So, so thank you and God bless. Here's to another year of great ministry and mission. We have a lot to look forward to here. Let us adjourn in prayer. God, again, thank you for providing this time. As we are doing discernment this year, as we are making plans to meet with one another, you just guide all that for us. As we go into your world to do ministry, lead us. to do your will in our own little world in this church. All this I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. You are adjourned. Thanks again.